So this month I've been fishing a couple of times. I saw the Spurs at the MCG. I've registered for 2 wheelchair tennis tournaments up in Brisbane. I thought I had appendicitis. And this week actually I'm going to the physio to get a full assessment to try to get reclassified for wheelchair tennis, which I'm really excited about. Just quickly, if you haven't seen my head before, hi, I'm Kalvin and I have FSHD, which is a form of muscular dystrophy. I was diagnosed about 10 years ago, and this channel is all about seeing what I get up to and following my journey with MD. So let's get back into the video. As for changes in my body this month, I've noticed that I've been quite fatigued. Even now I'm kind of out of breath. I don't know why. I always knew I've been quite unfit, at least recently, because I've been slacking on going on my walks and just doing general exercise. I went for a walk yesterday and came back just puffing, and it was like a 15-minute walk, which usually is not a huge deal for me, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was in the hospital all day on Sunday because I mentioned I thought I had appendicitis, and I guess the doctor did too, but did a CT scan and appendix is all good, it's still in there. So they did say I might be fighting some sort of viral thing, but I don't realize it. Like, I don't feel under the weather or anything, I'm just super tired. So that could have something to do with it. For some reason, I don't seem to notice my lack of fitness when I play tennis. And I think that's because my muscles fail before my sort of cardio system does. So I get muscular fatigue when I'm pushing hard in the chair for wheelchair tennis before I notice being out of breath. Maybe I'm just having such a good time that I don't realize, but either way, walking, going on the rowing machine, that kind of stuff taxes my cardio system more, so I need to do a bit more of that. I've also noticed that my left hamstring is, I noticed this last month as well, but my left hamstring is not the best hamstring in the world, I'll be honest. It's not very strong, so not a huge issue, but when I'm trying to step over things, whenever that happens, my right one is a bit stronger than my left. So I'm able to step over fine with my right, but with my left, it sort of reaches a point where I can lift it up and then it doesn't go any higher. I'll try to film this so it makes sense, but it sort of can clip stuff on the way past. In terms of mobility, if you watched my last video, I did use an aid, or I tried one out anyway. You can check that video out if you like. I didn't find it so useful that I'd need it every day, but it is something nice to have and something that I may use a little bit more in the future or on longer days anyway. One of my goals last month was to walk every day, and you'll find out later that that has not been the case. In my defense, I haven't been walking because I keep rolling my ankles, which is kind of annoying. I'll roll one and then that'll heal and I'll roll the other one. So at least it's taking turns, which is nice, but I would like to walk a bit and not roll my ankle as much, if possible. I mentioned in the last video that I had a physio appointment where I did some general strength testing and stuff. And something that I found out was that my left foot has a bit of a foot drop, which pretty much just means if this is my leg and this is my foot, this muscle, which I think is called a dorsiflexor, could be wrong, but that is not as strong as it probably should be. So when you lift up your foot to move, it doesn't lift up as much, so it kind of drops. It's not this exaggerated, but that's pretty much the idea. So it doesn't lift up as easily. So I could do worse than use an AFO, which is a assisted, or is it ankle foot? Or, I don't know. I'm gonna put it up on the screen so I don't look dumb, but it's an AFO. And pretty much what it is it's a little brace that sort of goes down the lower portion of my leg and my foot. And that would just keep my foot up a little bit. So when I walk, I don't have to worry about clipping my foot on the ground, because that's also another way you can trip. Because if I sort of stumble a little bit it's pretty hard for me to catch myself because my legs aren't very strong. So even the slightest trip, I'll sort of just go. I have an appointment booked, I don't know when. I think they're going to get in touch with me just to look at that and see what my options are. And I'd be open to trying that out. Sounds pretty cool. It sounds like it would be bulky around the ankle, so I don't know if I have to wear different size shoes. That would be really inconvenient, but we will see. In terms of grip strength, I talked about that last month and how this hand, which is my right, but this will be flipped, is a little bit weaker than it used to be. So especially these two fingers, my ring and my pinky. I actually have some proof for that now because last year in October I did a OT functional report thing. A component of that report was to measure my grip strength. My right hand was significantly weaker than my left. So from memory, my right was about 20 something kilos in terms of grip strength. And that is considered below average for my age. And then my left was at average for my age, which is cool. So I can still squeeze things, well, I could still squeeze things at a regular amount. Does that make sense? Anyway, in October last year, but I did have that physio testing where we measured that again. I think both hands I've lost about 8 to 9 kilos of grip strength, which is quite a lot for 8 to 9 months. Not ideal, not ideal. It hasn't really been a safety issue yet. Like I can still pick stuff up, but it is kind of annoying. Yeah, like picking up, this is a really specific example, but picking up the 1 or 2 litre thing of olive oil to sort of chuck in the pan, I can still do it, but it's not as easy as it used to be. And I could do worse than try to support it with the other hand so I can kind of do it. But it doesn't look as cool as just going like, whoa, you know? But some good news, with all the resistance band work I've been doing around my sort of rotator cuff area, I've noticed quite a bit of stability in that area now. I've noticed it's a lot more stable, especially when I'm playing tennis, which was the goal. And I've especially noticed that on shots where my shoulder feels a little bit vulnerable. So that's sort of the backhand and the serve, because it puts my shoulder in a bit of a weakened position. But now it feels a little bit less awkward, and I think I'm hitting the ball a lot harder, which is cool. As for my mental health, it's been a bit up and down this month. As I mentioned on Instagram and the community tab, we had to say goodbye to our childhood cat, Biscuit, which was pretty tough. He was 14 and an amazing cat, but he just had too many health complications, so we had to let him go. Losing him made me realize that it doesn't really matter what we do, we'll always want extra time once someone is gone. So it's just about enjoying the time you do have and trying not to take it for granted. So I mentioned earlier that I'm going up north to Brisbane to play 2 wheelchair tennis tournaments, which I'm so excited about. It's going to be sick. I go through ups and downs with my tennis. Sometimes I really back myself, and then other times I sort of doubt my ability to get to a higher level where I want to end up eventually. But regardless of that, it's always the highlight of every week for me. I've also started seeing a psychologist this month, which has been really beneficial for understanding or trying to understand what's going on in my head, and also getting another perspective on the way I'm dealing with things. I'm obviously still a massive work in progress, but I am really trying to improve myself and sort of take action to become better. So see how that goes. Overall, it's been a pretty testing month, but I'm feeling pretty good, and I'm really excited for June. To monitor the changes that I wanted to make over this past month, I've been using this little habit tracker thing. So I just write down the habits I want to implement, and then I can just tick them off each day. And you can see that I didn't actually finish tracking my habits. I started about a week late and finished about a week early in the month. So I guess that probably tells you all you need to know. In terms of things I stuck to, I was pretty good with taking my vitamins and pills in the morning. I did that most days. That was the only really consistent one that I did. Anyway, and another change I wanted to implement was walking daily. And as you can see, I didn't do that. But what I did do is walk 7 times out of 16. So as for some new changes for this month, I want to continue walking daily, especially with the fact that I'm very unfit now, as I mentioned earlier, and I've got those 2 tennis tournaments coming up, and I really want to be in the best shape that I possibly can be, because with those tournaments you are playing pretty much every day for 7 days straight, which is exhausting. So I would like to be less tired or be able to perform at a higher level for longer. I aim to track that by, I'm not wearing it, but I've got a little watch that tracks my VO2 max. I don't know how accurate that is, but it's apparently a good measure of how fit you are. I can't remember off the top of my head what my VO2 max is, but I think it's about mid-30s, which is pretty bad. I think it's probably pretty average if you're in your 50s or 60s, but I hope you can tell by this handsome face that I'm not in my 50s or 60s, so I need to sort that out. For context, my brother's VO2 max is, I'll ask him after this, but I think it's about 59, which is, I think, quite good because he's very fit and I am not. Just taking a look at my goals from last month, I said I wanted to try out a mobility aid. I did that. It was a little bit confronting at first, but once you whip it out, it's fine. I think I can safely tick that goal off. One of my other goals was to stretch more. I did get some really good stretches and core, hip, pelvis sort of exercises, and that's actually going to be really beneficial for my gait. As I've mentioned in a previous video, my pelvis is kind of tilted and my back is sort of thrown out, which throws off everything and contributes to a lot of back pain. Another goal that I had from last month was to get a job. And technically I did that. I got a job as a crossing supervisor, so that guy that hangs out at the school crossing with a stick and a fluoro vest and helps people cross the road. So I got the position, I passed the physical exam, but then I had a fall at home, and then I realized that it would be almost irresponsible of me to continue in a safety position, especially when it's looking after kids. I know it's quite rare that I will fall, but I didn't really want to risk that. I care less if I get injured, but if I end up injuring or putting some kid in danger, I don't want that. So I withdrew my application, which was hard because I finally thought I'd have some money coming in because I am still bleeding money from my savings, but what can you do? So I'm still going to apply to random places and hopefully get something soon. So as for some new goals for this month, they'll be sort of similar to last month because I don't know if I completely fulfilled them, but I have a bad habit of finishing tennis and then hopping in the car and driving home without properly stretching and loosening up everything so that I don't feel too sore the next day. I don't usually feel too bad, but when it comes to those tournaments in Brisbane, those consecutive days will catch up to me and I'll feel really sore. But just taking a couple of minutes to stretch and cool down properly after training is something that I want to implement this month. Another goal this month is sleeping and getting up at consistent times. I found that the time that I'm going to sleep is being pushed later and later, and I'm not really sure why. I just need to set a time when I say I'll go to bed and then go to bed. It's that simple, but apparently I can't stick to that. So something like 10:30 is probably pretty good for me, sort of in bed by 10:30. But I find that I only actually get up if my alarm is on the other side of the room. Because if I have my phone next to my bed, I'll just keep snoozing it forever and never get out of bed. I need that cue to literally get out of bed to turn off the alarm, otherwise I'll stay in bed. And the final goal for this month is to get my blood work done. So I'm not sure if I'm deficient in any, vitamin D, vitamin B12, all things that are useful for me. I do plan to hop on somewhat of a new diet and supplement regime fairly soon because I've come across some information that I will make a video about that I think could be really beneficial. So I want to get sort of a baseline done first to find out where I'm at and where my levels are at. And then I can also get another blood test in X amount of months and see how I'm going. I think for anyone, it's probably good to know if you're deficient in any vitamin or anything, because it could be impacting your energy levels or things like that. I'm not a doctor, but I'm sure that's a good thing to know. I'm pretty bad with blood tests, honestly. I don't like needles in this part of my arm. It freaks me out. So those are my goals. Hopefully I can stick to them and update you next month with good news. So that's the update for this month. Hopefully it was somewhat interesting for you guys to hear about. If you enjoyed this one, remember to like and comment, subscribe, check out the Instagram. It's just called Dudeability. So yeah, leave anything in the comments. You got any video suggestions, any questions? I'd love to hear anything. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.